So in order to create this tonal ruler, the first thing is that you might want to give it a name. You could call it Simon if you wanted to, or you could call it the ruler of truth, or you could call it a tonal ruler, just tonal ruler, if you want to be boring. I like calling it the ruler of truth because it tells me the truth and it knocks out what my left brain tries to tell me about what the tone of things are. So tone is the dark or the light of a colour. So tone has got nothing to do with the actual colour, it's how dark or light the colour is. It's one of the most important things to know, to be aware of, to train your eyes to see and to train your brain to understand, is the darkness or the lightness of the colours that you're laying down. So we're going to create a tonal ruler, which is a reference tool that I use when I'm going out and painting on plein air. I put this into my kit and take it outdoors to paint outdoors because I'm always getting the tone wrong in the especially in the far distant mountains. Because when you pick up a colour to paint the whatever the colour is of the far distant mountains, you're often picking up a colour that's way too bright. And you'd be surprised at how pale those distant mountains are. Because what happens is you look at the hills around here, really bright, rich green. The next one further away is a bit duller and greyer. The ones far, far away, they look sort of like a pale lilac or a pale blue. And so you mix up a nice light colour on your palette and you put it on and you go, that just doesn't look right at all. And I found that by holding this up against that distant landscape and then just working out which mark along here was closest to that colour that I'm looking at, and often I'll squint to just drop the colour down so I can see which tone it is clearly, and I can see that it's usually way up here. Those distant hillsides are way paler than you think they are, because left brain, the logical brain that's got all the memory about what it's learnt through your whole life, has realised that these hills here are quite rich in colour, and then it's getting paler and paler, but it doesn't twig how pale the final far distant ones are. It always thinks that they're brighter than they are. So this has been a great help to get more accurate landscapes when I'm painting outdoors. But also, just when you're looking around the studio, you can check the tone on different colours that you're looking at. So this is a really useful scale to train your eye to see tone, regardless of what the colour is. So we're going to create this tonal ruler, and it's just a matter of creating 10 different boxes of tone mixed between the black and the white, mixed together, which seems to be quite a simple, easy exercise to do, but it surprisingly can be quite challenging. But this process will help to train your brain to see tone as well. So the goal at the end is we don't want to see any two boxes the same. So they've all got to have a little jump, but not too big a jump. So you'll see sometimes that there might be too big a jump from one tone to the next. And often, in partner with that, there'll be two boxes that are too similar off the other end. So sometimes what you have to do is you start painting from one end, doesn't matter which end you start from, and then you go up and you go, oh no, I've gone too far, I have to backtrack and nudge those back down again. And then sometimes you've got to go forwards again. So you'd be surprised at how many times you need to do that. Last night I managed to just knock this out in sort of the first shot with a couple of nudges on the boxes, but that's the first time ever, after doing it 10 times, it's the first time I've been able to do it without backtracking a couple of times across the ruler. So the first thing we're going to do, and we've got this nice handy dandy ruler that's got all these nice markings on it so that we don't even have to do any long division to try and work out where the boxes are. It's 30 centimetres, so you can just pick every 3 centimetres. You can put a little mark. It's up to you if you want to paint on the front or the back. Completely your choice. So tonal ruler. You can call it Tony.
That's what I called mine.
Did ya?
Yeah.
I'm going to call it Tony with an E.
I did too.
Did ya? Sisters. Tony. Good fun. So I've called mine the ruler of truth, or you can call it a tonal ruler, whatever you want. Okay, so Tony. So you can, obviously I'm not going to paint on that side now. So I'm going to transfer these 3 centimetre marks across to the other side. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to mark them on the edge first. 6, 9, 12, 15. Just mark all the 3 centimetre spots and then transfer it to the back if that's what you're going to do, or if you might want to just take the easy path and just paint on them. Just rough enough. Doesn't have to be perfectly neat and tidy little squares. It's a reference chart. It's not going to be judged by anybody, except we're just going to check the tones. So, to start with, you don't need to mix 10 shades of grey along here. So, I'm going to mix 3 piles instead. I'm not going to mix up 10. This takes too long. I'm going to mix a pale version of grey. There's a bit of black on here, so that might do the job. Pale grey. And now I've got a scrape to get all the excess from underneath and then squash it. Then it's really thoroughly mixed. And then I've got a little bit of white on here, so I'm going to mix it into here. And that'll give me a dark grey, a very dark grey. It's probably not enough there, I need to mix a big pile, I think. And in the middle here, I'm going to just mix it mid sort of grey. See if I can do it. Dark. So, I need some more white. I've already used up my white because I didn't put enough paint out. I hope you guys put a little bit more. That's good. So you do still need to have a little pile of pure white and a pure black sitting on your palette. Anyway, that'll do. That's rough enough. A big sort of grey, or a darkish mid-grey, but that will do. We'll work it out as we go. So, just make sure you keep your little palette blades nice and clean after you've used them, and they'll last forever. So, I've only got 5 piles of colour there, but I want you to be mixing on the ruler so that you can start to see the tones. So it's up to you whether you start from the white end or the black end. I'm going to start from white and see what happens. So I'm going to paint this by going from the centre outwards. This is just a little tip. If you don't want to have boggy paint all the way along here and get it all over your hands, I'm just going from the centre out towards the edge and then flipping over and going out towards the edge there. To get that black on the brush. And then on the same method on the next square. And then it stops you from having all that big boggy paint on the edge when you go outwards from the centre. And then we're going to go a little bit greyer for the next box. Make it a bit darker with a softer grey in the middle. It's probably too much of a jump. I don't think I'm going to be as lucky as I was last night. I think it was just pure luck. That's too much of a jump. So I'll just add a little bit more white in. So I want you to be really judging with your eyes how light or dark you're getting with each box. So we're going to get to a mid-grey by the time we're halfway along. I'm just going to take a smidge off here. I don't take a smidge off the black because that's very strong. Just take a smidge off a slightly darker grey, and that helps you to mix the greys more subtly. Don't worry about making it all neat and tidy and perfect. It's not what we're after. We're not after perfection here. We're after a reference that you can use. So you get the idea? You need to start really judging the tone to see how gently you're making each step. Because you may find by the time you get to the end you haven't gone far enough or you've gone too far and then you've got to backtrack.